Is yet another important part of menstrual cycle, which is the fluctuation in the level of hormones during the cycle. We have made this horizontally the number of days, the first day, approximately 14th day, the middle of the cycle, and 28th day. Remember, on an average, the duration is 28 days, but it is not a rule. It may fluctuate, the days may fluctuate. More or less, it remains one lunar month. So, we will see the fluctuation in the level of follicle stimulating hormone. What is the source of FSH? Come on. Yes, it is anterior pituitary and it is released under the influence of GnRH from hypothalamus. So, let us see what happens in FSH level. FSH level is normally low, but then it gets a peak in the middle of the cycle, and normally there is a very little fluctuation, but yes, it is important. In the middle of the cycle there is a peak in the level of FSH, and because of the FSH we need to know that the follicle develops. And can you think of which hormone comes out of follicle, growing follicle? Yes, you are right, it is estrogens. So, estrogens, let us see estrogens. This is estrogens. Usually the level of estrogen is steady, but then because the follicle is developing, the estrogen gets a peak in the middle of the cycle. So, estrogen level is rising and then it becomes high. This is because of growing follicle. After that, the follicle ruptures and corpus luteum forms. Remember, even the corpus luteum secretes some amount of estrogens. So, another peak of estrogen is noticed, and then the steady level of estrogen. So, estrogen level becomes high in the middle of the cycle, and this is the luteal phase. In this phase again there is a peak in the level of estrogen. So, estrogen two peaks, one is in the middle of the cycle and one is in the luteal phase. Now, we will see what happens to LH, a very important LH, luteinizing hormone. LH usually remains steady, but there is a sudden sharp rise of LH in the middle of the cycle. And you can see this, a rise in the level of estrogen becomes the stimulus for the LH surge. A sharp rise in the level of LH is called LH surge, and it occurs usually in the middle of the cycle, and then there is a steady level in the LH seen. So, this is LH. This one is, come on, this one is estrogens. What is this one? FSH. And this is LH surge. And lastly, we will see how the progesterone fluctuates during a menstrual cycle. So, progesterone level is usually maintained low, but there is a peak of progesterone occurs in the middle of the luteal phase, and you can understand why this happens because of the corpus luteum. This is the time when the corpus luteum is most developed, and therefore, the level of progesterone and estrogen are also showing a rise, a peak. Again, very quick, FSH peak occurs in the middle of the cycle. Estrogen two peaks occur, one peak in the middle of the cycle, another one in the remaining phase called the luteal phase. LH steady level but a sharp rise, and both these hormones show rise in the middle of the cycle. FSH and LH both show rise. LH is somewhat more steeper and therefore it is called LH surge. And can you think of LH surge is responsible for which event? Yes, you are right, it is ovulation. After that, the progesterone, this is progesterone level becomes high in the approximately in the middle of the luteal phase. You may get a question on the fluctuations in the level of hormones in menstrual cycle. This is another topic in human reproduction, and this is fertilization and implantation. Fertilization is the fusion of gametes. After fertilization, a zygote is formed and zygote then develop into an early embryo. Embedment of this early embryo into the endometrium is called implantation. So, fertilization, after that there will be implantation. And once the implantation occurs, then we can say the conception has taken place. And in medical language, then we say a woman has become pregnant. In this regard, we have to learn some terms. There is a term called coitus. Coitus is nothing but an act of sexual intercourse. Another alternative term for coitus is copulation. Coitus or copulation. The result of sexual intercourse is insemination. What is insemination? The release of semen inside the female genitalia or inside the female genital tract is called insemination. Please do not get confused with ejaculation. Ejaculation simply means the release of semen out of penis. That is ejaculation. Insemination is the release of semen or introduction of semen inside the female genital tract. So, we should know the difference of these terms, coitus and insemination, and we should be able to differentiate insemination from ejaculation. After the release of ovum into the abdominal cavity, it is being taken up by the fimbriae of fallopian tube. It enters into the fallopian tube and there it further enters into the ampullary portion of the fallopian tube. The ampulla, which is the wide part of the fallopian tube, the dilated part of the fallopian tube, ampulla of fallopian tube. Remember, this is the very site of fertilization. Again, keep it in mind, write it somewhere, always keep it in mind, the site of fertilization in human beings is ampulla of fallopian tube. So, we have tried to show here, this is the diagram. So, this is the secondary oocyte, because we know that when ovulation occurs, it is not a truly haploid oocyte, it is still a secondary oocyte. So, this is the oolemma, the plasma membrane of the oocyte. You can also copy this diagram in your notebooks. This yellow colored line which you see around the ovum, this is zona pellucida, a very important membrane called zona pellucida. Zona pellucida is responsible for two things. Number one, for species specificity. What is that? In fertilization, only the sperm and ovum of the same species fuse, and this is maintained by receptors on zona pellucida. Another thing, the advantage or the function of zona pellucida is it maintains monospermy or it prevents polyspermy. Let me elaborate that. It is because of zona pellucida not more than one sperm can fertilize the ovum. You know that the nucleus of the sperm is a haploid nucleus having 23 chromosomes. Similarly, the ovum has got a haploid nucleus, 23 chromosomes. And the resultant fusion will result into a normal diploid cell with 46 chromosomes. You can very well imagine what will happen if more than one sperm fertilizes this ovum. So, polyspermy is prevented by Zona pellucida receptors on Zona pellucida. In one ejaculate, which is about 3 ml of the semen, how many sperms are there? Please recall. Yes, you are right, it is 200 to 300 million sperms in one ejaculate. Now, they are released inside the vagina. From the vagina, they enter the cervix of the uterus. From there, it enters the very cavity of the uterus and then enters into the fallopian tube. Remember, sperms enter in both the fallopian tubes. If by chance in any of the fallopian tube it encounters a viable ovum, it will try to reach it. Usually about 200 sperms reach the very site, the ampullary portion of the fallopian tube, the tube where the ovum is lying. One should note down that fertilization is successful only when both the gametes reach the ampulla at the same time. This is the reason why not all copulations result into pregnancy. So, both should reach the ampulla portion of the fallopian tube at the same time. Now, out of these 200 to 300 million sperms, hardly 200 of them are able to reach the ampullary portion of the fallopian tube. Out of them, only one becomes successful to fertilize the ovum. Remember students, this is 1 out of millions. Out of 300 million, this is the one sperm, the very successful sperm which can fertilize the ovum. Due to the speed it occurs or it gains in the inside the female genital tract, it pierces the outermost layer or outermost membrane of the oocyte, which is called corona radiata. What is the source of corona radiata? Corona radiata is nothing but the rearrangement of the granulosa cells, the cells which are released at the time of ovulation along with the secondary oocyte. So, what happens that this pierces the corona radiata and now this acrosome, which is that at the tip of the sperm, ruptures and the acrosomal enzymes are released. Acrosomal enzymes contain hydrolytic, these are the hydrolytic enzymes that can hydrolyze, that can digest the Zona pellucida. But this becomes possible only after the successful matching of the receptors. Secretions of acrosome digest this Zona pellucida and now the sperm head reaches into this space which is in between oolemma and Zona pellucida, which is called perivitelline space. Further, the plasma membrane of the egg fuse with the plasma membrane of the sperm head and the sperm content enter into the ovum. After entry, the second meiotic division now begins after the second arrest. Recall, when did the second arrest during oogenesis took place? Yes, you are right, the second arrest took place during menstrual cycle when during the maturation phase it has reached metaphase second, metaphase 2. And now from metaphase 2 further development takes place, anaphase 2 and telophase 2. Remember, In human beings, even the second meiotic division is unequal. Entire cytoplasm is retained by a single ooted and the nuclear content extrude out as the second polar body. So, when did the second polar body comes out? Remember, the second polar body extrudes only when the sperm enters into the ovum. Now, remember students, can we say that fertilization has taken place? Remember, yet fertilization is not completed. I reached home. I reached home and there I switched on this. Look at the process of fertilization. See, once the sperms enter into the female genital tract, they undergo certain changes in the sperm membrane, and due to that, the motility of the sperm becomes slow, rhythmic to vigorous motility. This process is called capacitation. A question comes, what is the site of capacitation? Remember, capacitation only occurs inside the female genital tract. The sperm motility becomes vigorous and the sperm then penetrates the outer covering, which is called corona radiata. Now, we have made it a little bigger diagram. This is the sperm head, this is the nucleus, and these are the complementary glycoprotein. There is a glycoprotein on the zona pellucida called ZP3. This ZP3 glycoprotein on the zona pellucida and a complementary glycoprotein present on the sperm membrane, and they should fit like a lock and key. Only then the further acrosomal reaction takes place. So, capacitation, they become vigorous, and after that it penetrates the corona radiata and then a positive zona reaction. Once they fit into each other, the acrosome then ruptures, releasing the hydrolytic enzymes. This hydrolyzes the zona pellucida and the sperm head now enters into perivitelline space. Except the tail part, entire content of the sperm enters into the ovum. First, the sperm membrane and the egg membrane fuse. Now, here the moment sperm head comes in contact with zona pellucida, there started certain changes in the zona pellucida, number one. Number two, the moment sperm membrane, the plasma membrane, fuses with the plasma membrane of the egg, the plasma membrane of the egg become depolarized, and once it is depolarized, then further entry of sperm or further fusion with the sperm is not possible, hence preventing polyspermy. All these events are in order to favor only one sperm fertilizing the ovum. So, the first step is the zona pellucida. The moment it comes in contact with zona pellucida, there is started certain changes in the zona pellucida. Then the egg membrane, when it fuses with the sperm membrane, it becomes depolarized, and hence now it is not possible to fuse with any other sperm. This also causes certain granules to move towards the periphery and release their content out in the perivitelline space. This damages these zona receptors, zona glycoproteins, and no more sperm is now possible to fertilize. When this enters into the cytoplasm of the ovum, then the second meiotic division further continues from metaphase 2 to anaphase 2 to telophase 2. Remember, this time also it is unequal division, and now the second polar body will be extruded, which is the nuclear content, and rest of the cytoplasm and the cell is now called ooted. Now it is suitable for intermingling with the nucleus of the sperm. Now, there is a question here, and the question is, when the second polar body is extruded. Another way of asking the same question is when the second meiotic division is completed. Options can be before fertilization or after fertilization. Now, here you have to focus. Fertilization is actually the fusion of the gametes wherein syngamete takes place, the intermingling of the chromatin of the two nuclei. And this occurs before the intermingling of the chromatin. We cannot say that the fertilization is completed. Hence, the second polar body is extruded just before fertilization. One question. Another question is, who determines the sex? Because so far the nuclei are not intermingled, the sex of the fetus has not been decided. So, the sex of the fetus is decided by male or female. This remains a question. Now, remember, as you know that all the egg contains X and the number of autosomes. All egg contains only X chromosome as the sex chromosome, wherein 50% of the sperms, approx 50% of the sperms contain X chromosome and 50% of the sperm contains Y chromosome. It depends who is the one which get fused, and hence the sex of the fetus is determined. Hence, it is rightly said that the sex of the fetus is actually dependent on the father and not on the mother. One more important question is, what are the mechanisms that prevent polyspermy? Polyspermy is fusion of the ovum with more than one sperm. So, the mechanisms that prevent polyspermy, number one, immediately when the sperm membrane comes in contact with the egg membrane, there occurs depolarization, which is an electrical event in the egg membrane. Once the egg membrane is depolarized, no more further sperms can now fertilize or fuse with the egg. This is mechanism number one. Once it is depolarized and the sperm contents they enter into the cytoplasm, certain granules migrate to the periphery and certain chemicals are released out by the ovum. They further make certain changes in the zona pellucida and the receptors. The glycoprotein ZP3 is now damaged. Now, once ZP3 are damaged, no more sperm can now fuses with the ovum. So, these are the two ways of preventing polyspermy. One is fast block to polyspermy, which is the electrical change in the egg membrane, and second is the slow block to polyspermy, which is the cortical reaction and the changes in the zona pellucida. And who triggers that? Once the sperm membrane fuses with or comes in contact with the egg membrane. The fertilization is over and it occurs in the ampulla. After fertilization, this becomes the ovum now becomes a diploid zygote. This is the first stage of the embryo, earliest embryo, single-celled embryo. And now it start moving in the isthmus of the fallopian tube. While moving in the isthmus, it divides by a special type of mitosis. It divides into 2, then cell become 4, then cell become 8, then 16, 32. This is the way cells are doubling. One thing, if you can notice here, that the entire cytoplasm, the total cytoplasm is not increasing. Even here, the size of the cell or the resultant embryo is more or less same, which means that the cytoplasm is not adding neither subtracting. The total cytoplasm is constant. This special type of mitosis is known as cleavage. This is called cleavage, and it starts in the isthmus and continues as this embryo moves further down the uterus in the fallopian tube. Once it reaches the 8 or 16 cell stage, it looks like a bunch of small cells, and this bunch of cell is known as morula. The literal meaning of morula is mulberry. It looks like the mulberry fruit, therefore called morula. How many cells? Around 8 to 16 cell stage. On about 7th day of fertilization, this embryo reaches the uterus, and then it transforms into such type of structure where the cells are rearranged into two category or two types. One type of cell are peripheral, and this forms the trophoblast, and this group of cell which are very important because they are going to make the embryo proper, and we call them inner cell mass, ICM, inner cell mass. This structure is known as blastocyst, and now this blastocyst is ready for implantation. The trophoblast cell will help in implantation. Once it reaches the endometrium, it starts eroding the endometrial wall, and then the endometrium cells start multiplying, and they multiply and they cover the entire embryo, entire blastocyst.